That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, here we are going to be digging deep. We are going to be looking at the end of startup drafts, some running backs that will be available that I think are very intriguing to add on for damn near free to the back end of your rosters. Now, I will admit the first RB that we're going to talk about will cost something. It's definitely a player that has some value, but we'll get a little bit deeper as the video goes on. But before we get into it, please go down there, drop that like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Go get our Dynasty research book on flockfantasy.com. Over 100 pages, quality information of how to adjust your league format, super flex, tight end premium, how to rebuild a roster, how to contend a roster. I mean, I can't even talk. There are so many things over there. Please check that out in the description of the video. You can do that on flockfantasy.com or by signing up for Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK, where you will also be able to get into drafts with us in the live stream. You'll get a month free of our premium locals content, and you will support this channel more than you would ever believe. But yada, 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 we got through that as fast as we could. Let's go through. Let's dive into these running backs. Let's lead it off with someone that is going to cost something. And I'm going to tell you, don't trade for him now. Okay, I know that that's a little bit of a cop-out, but we are going to wait until after the NFL draft. And if he survives the NFL draft, we're probably going to have to pay a little bit of a premium on him. Yes, his value will go up just slightly, but it'll be worth to pay it for the security that you would have. It's going to be Devin Singletary. Now, with Devin Singletary, never thought there would be a day that I'm advocating to go out there and draft him. But this situation that you were looking at in Buffalo right now is very, very appealing. And the price point doesn't exactly make sense. I mean, if we're looking at where he currently is on underdog ADP, which that's probably the ADP we should be looking at for our redraft leagues to have realistic expectations this upcoming season, he's being drafted as a low-end running back 2, high-end running back 3. And in Dynasty, he is significantly below that. And I will definitely say this is a running back that should be more valuable in redraft than Dynasty, because I can't come out here and I can't tell you that Devin Singletary is a talented running back. But I mean, if I tried to do that, I would be lying. I know a bunch of film people really like Devin Singletary, but at the end of the day, he's pretty small, pretty slow. But what he does have is he has access to some of the highest value touches in fantasy football. And that's what we are going to be chasing here. This is a running back that last season finished as the running back 28 on a per game basis. So yes, better than where he's being drafted now, but it's very deceiving. Now, what I want to do real quick is let's pull up what we actually had from the combination of Zach Moss and Devin Singletary. Because remember, I mean, at the beginning of this season, Zach Moss was splitting the backfield 50-50 with Devin Singletary. There were even some games where Zach Moss went out there and led the backfield in touches. But at the end of the season, we saw this coaching staff, no plans for Zach Moss going forward. They actually made Zach Moss a healthy inactive pretty much throughout the last half of the season, which indicates that Devin Singletary is their guy going forward. I mean, if you just look at the game log for Devin Singletary, you can see the majority of that volume, the majority of the production came at the end of the season. But if we're looking at this, you actually had a combined 1,200 yards between Matt Breida, Zach Moss, and Devin Singletary just running the football. Now, what's exciting about this, however, is if we're going over and we're looking at the involvement that you are going to get as a receiver for Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary actually had 50 targets this past year. Keep in mind, Zach Moss was the starting running back for a stretch during this season, and Zach Moss racked up 32 targets out of the backfield. You had Matt Breida close to 10. I'm not saying Devin Singletary is going to get every single touch out of this backfield. I think this team will have a Matt Breida type player that will see a similar role to what Matt Breida did last season. So we can't say that you're going to add Zach Moss's, add Matt Breida's production to Devin Singletary, and that's what's going to happen this upcoming season, because of course, fantasy football does not work like that. But what we could reasonably expect is maybe about half of that Zach Moss production goes over to Devin Singletary. And in this offense in particular, that is extremely valuable. We can even see, I mean, I may not think Devin Singletary is the most talented player on the planet, but when you're operating in the NFL's best offense, or at least one of the best offenses, you are going to have so much to work with, because we know the Buffalo Bills, specifically with their pace of play, combined with the fact that they're going to sustain a significant amount of drives all the way to the red zone. This is a team that's going to run a ton of plays. So despite Devin Singletary having to split the backfield with Zach Moss last year, despite this being a team that wants to throw the ball, he still averaged over 11 carries a game. He averaged about 3 targets a game. And you know what you can assume is the running backs in this backfield, regardless of if we want to think that they are super talented players or not, they're going to be highly efficient based on how defensive coordinators have to scheme against Josh Allen. I mean, if you're playing the Buffalo Bills, what's your priority? Is your priority to try to immobilize Josh Allen, shut down Stephon Diggs, and try to limit this offense through the air? Or is your priority to stack the box against Devin Singletary? No, you're going against Josh Allen. You are going through and trying to stop Allen. So we saw that Devin Singletary, 11 carries a game, about 3 targets a game, and got up to 65 total yards a game, as well as half a touchdown a game as well this past season. Those are very impressive marks, and that is fueled off of just what the defenses have to do going up against this Buffalo Bills offense. And I honestly don't think that's changing anytime soon. I don't see why this Buffalo Bills team would take a step backwards. Now, if they would have signed J.D. McKissic, bye-bye Devin Singletary. He would not have been on this list. But with McKissic going back to Washington, Devin Singletary has that role at least projected on lock. Now, as I said, I am concerned about what's going to happen in the NFL draft. I definitely think it's in the range of outcomes for this team to say, you know what? Let's grab Rachaad White at the end of the 3rd round. Let's grab Rachaad White at the beginning of the 4th. If he makes it there, let's go and take Isaiah Spiller at the end of the 3rd, beginning of the 4th, if he makes it there. Or let's just completely revamp the position. Let's go Breece Hall in the 1st round. I would love that. I would love that so much as someone who's been hyping up Breece Hall nonstop. But how many quality running backs could actually take away touches from Devin Singletary in this year's draft class? I'm counting 4. He has to dodge 4 bullets. I think it's possible. So like I said, I'm not going to be trading for him now, but I think we can later. And I know people are going to say, well, what exactly are you trading for him? The entire reason I'm making this video is because we have gotten in so many real money Dynasty startups over the past month. And recently, there are 3 leagues that Devin Singletary fell to the 12-10, the 12-10, and I ended up taking him at the 12-11. Now, if you're looking at other running backs going ahead of him, my issue with these running backs being drafted ahead of Devin Singletary are that they are the rookie running backs that have nothing special attached to their profile. In pretty much every single one of these drafts, you had Kyren Williams go before Devin Singletary. Kyren Williams is a slightly worse version of Devin Singletary that does not project to be the starting running back for the Buffalo Bills. You also have James Cook going ahead of him in a significant amount of these leagues. You have Zamir White going ahead of him as well. Devin Singletary, it's not like he's a running back that you can trade for on strictly a contending team. Now, of course, I'm not assuming Devin Singletary, because I don't believe that he's some elite level talent, is going to have a job over the next 3 to 4 years, but he is only 25 years old. I think that his odds of having a productive season this upcoming year significantly higher than what you would have from any of those rookie running backs really ever turning into anything. So I'm going to take that pick where it could be James White, could be Zamir White, could be Kyren Williams, and I'm going to trade that to get Devin Singletary straight up. I would actually do that before the NFL draft. I mean, I went out there and took Devin Singletary after those players before the NFL draft, but I would actually prefer him straight up, and I would be willing to make that bet. Now, our next running back, I don't even know if we can call him a running back, and definitely someone that's a 1-year option, definitely someone you only want on a contending team, is going to be Cordell Patterson. Now, with Cordell Patterson, if you're looking at those 3 startups, he went at the 1404, the 1505, and the 1410. To give you some context of the players he's going around, he went behind Kenneth Gainwell in pretty much every single one of these. He went behind Chuba Hubbard as well. Chuba Hubbard currently the 3rd string running back for the Carolina Panthers. I really like Chuba Hubbard as a prospect. Thought he had a ton of upside, but what are we talking about here? He went behind McCole Hardman, KJ Osborne. I mean, I made the mistake. horrible pick in hindsight, and this is why I just need to ignore sleeper ADP. I think all my mistakes have come from, oh my God, this player's fallen 30 picks from sleeper ADP. I'm going to do 30 startup drafts this year. I guess we kind of have to take him here. I took Melvin Gordon ahead of Cordell Patterson, and the second I saw Patterson go off the board right after us, I was like, oh my God, Mason, you botched it. What are you doing? Delete the YouTube channel. You have no idea what's going on here. Because with Cordell Patterson, this is a running back that finished as the RB15 this past season. Now, I will admit, there are a ton of red flags on this profile. 100%. But that's why he's going so late in startup drafts, just to be fair and go through these red flags. Cordell Patterson is a 31-year-old player. He will be 31 this upcoming season. Cordell Patterson has had a very long NFL career. We're almost going on 10 seasons, and through that 9-year stretch, Cordell Patterson has had 1 year where he's been hyper-productive in fantasy. Now, of course, Cordell Patterson's definitely had flashes before, specifically at the beginning of his career, and I know he was definitely a valuable Dynasty asset for a lot of years, but if we're talking about real-life production, Cordell Patterson, definitely the best year he's had last year, breaking out of 30. Massive red flags. Another red flag that you were going to have on this profile is he looks like he is going to be a part of one of the worst offenses in the NFL this upcoming season. Now, that's good and that's bad. It's going to be bad because what we were talking about with Devin Singletary will not exist. There are not going to be sustained drives. I mean, you're going to have a lot of 3-and-outs from this Atlanta Falcons offense, and you will not have many trips to the red zone. But what is positive about this is if you go over and you look at that Atlanta Falcons depth chart, I don't even want to talk about the running backs there. And say worst case scenario, Cordell Patterson's another player I think you can actually trade for before the NFL draft because, I mean, the Atlanta Falcons are not in a position where they think, okay, well, yeah, we just need to take a running back in the first or second round and then our roster's fixed. No, of course, that's not the situation. So I think he's probably locked in that running back job. But even if they go grab Isaiah Spiller and you're worried about Isaiah Spiller taking over for Cordell Patterson, the wide receivers on this roster right now, Olamide Zaccheaus, Damiere Byrd, and Cordell Hodge are the top 3 options according to ESPN depth charts. Olamide Zaccheaus, Damiere Byrd, and Cordell Hodge. I think they signed Auden Tate. Personally, I would say Auden Tate's probably going to play over a couple of those players. But nonetheless, this is a team that has nothing. They have no weapons at all outside of Kyle Pitts. So if we look at the usage that Cordell Patterson had last year, we look at the fact that he had about 73 total yards per game. I would imagine that this role in this offense is not going anywhere, specifically because A, they don't have anywhere else to go, and B, they kind of locked themselves into this by giving Cordell Patterson $10 million. Now, we know that the running back position, is depressed. I'm pretty sure Marlon Mack got paid like $1 million guaranteed to go to Houston, just to give some context. Now, I will say this is a little deceiving because NFL teams aren't really going to value Cordell Patterson as just a running back based on how he can be used all over the field. He's definitely a lot more versatile and definitely going to get paid more elsewhere for probably less touches on a per game basis just because the optionality he gives your offense. But still, combine the contract, the usage last year, he was the running back 15 on a points per game basis. The complete lack of playmakers this offense has. Give me Cordell Patterson over Chuba Hubbard. I don't think that's too crazy to say, especially considering that a couple of these running backs like Chuba Hubbard, like Kenneth Gainwell, we don't even know where their spot officially is on the depth chart. All we know is they're definitely not that top guy. So I'd rather just take Cordell Patterson, take the production, understanding that we only have 1 year left because Gainwell, Chuba Hubbard, those are guys that could be out of the NFL in a year. Now let's go to someone that could also be out of the NFL for a year. And this is a player that is dirt cheap. And to be honest, he may be my favorite player to go and just ask as a throw on in your dynasty leagues. It's Kenyan Drake. Now with Kenyan Drake, he has legitimately no value. Now the issue with ever acquiring a player like this is you can't go up to an owner in your league and say, hey, what do you want for Kenyan Drake? Because the guy's either A, going to ignore you because, what does he expect to get in return for Kenyan Drake? B, look into why you're asking about Kenyan Drake and automatically raise his price. It's very annoying where Kenyan Drake, you can see that based on where he's going in startup drafts, going behind Jerick McKinnon, Chestnut, Mo Alley Cox, going behind Jalen Guyton, Likely, Melton. I mean, players that have pretty much no shot at ever doing anything in the future. You would assume that Kenyan Drake, cost a late third-round rookie pick. That should be the street price for him. But whenever you go and approach an owner for someone in the Kenyan Drake caliber, very rarely are they going to say, yeah, give me the 311, give me the 402, and you can have Kenyan Drake. The majority of the time, they're going to go, oh, give me your second. And you just look at him and go, you know he's not worth that, right? But why would you even ask? And then you really don't have any space to work. So we've talked about this before, but what I would prefer to do is kind of have a Trojan horse, try to go and approach a team, say, hey, I'll swap you Chase Claypool for Rashad Bateman. All you got to do is throw in Kenyan Drake. They're not even thinking about Kenyan Drake. They could care less. And then maybe they want to swap those receivers and you get them for free. And those wide receivers are essentially the exact same in Dynasty. Just an example, of course. Now that's how I'm going to go about acquiring Kenyan Drake. Now, the reason I am acquiring Kenyan Drake is this is a player that 2 years ago was a running back 1 in fantasy. I'm sorry, 3 years ago. Last year, he was a low-end running back 2 in fantasy. This year, yes, of course, the production fell off a cliff, as you should have expected. The carries per game went down to 5.5. The targets per game stayed there. He averaged about 3.5 targets per game. He averaged about 45.5 total yards per game. I'm pretty sure most people would be surprised to hear Kenyan Drake had 45.5 total yards per game this past season, specifically because Josh Jacobs was able to stay healthy. Kenyan Drake was not. So you didn't really get to see Kenyan Drake in that 3-down role in really any time period of a Josh Jacobs injury because Jacobs did a great job staying on the field. And with Kenyan Drake here, what we need to understand is this is a team that simply cannot afford to move on from Kenyan Drake as their running back 2. This is a team that's paying Kenyan Drake a ton of guaranteed money, getting paid more guaranteed, like way more guaranteed money than what you have with someone, say, like Marlon Mack that we brought up earlier. This is a team that also spent a first-round pick on Josh Jacobs in 2019. This team that went out there and just spent a crap ton to bring Devontae Adams in. This team doesn't really have the resources to go out there and have a luxury running back coming in. This team can't go and draft Rachaad White. So this locks Kenyan Drake into a passing down role for the Las Vegas Raiders. But more importantly, it also gives Kenyan Drake access to be one of those premium handcuff running backs if something were to occur to Josh Jacobs. And as I've said, we saw this before. Let's go back to 2019. And I will say these 2019 statistics are a little deceiving because if we look at the Arizona Cardinals statistics for Kenyan Drake, they're going to be better. Remember, this is the year that Kenyan Drake wasn't really doing anything, didn't have a role at Miami until he was traded over to Arizona. But if you're looking at the total season numbers, he averaged over 12 carries a game, averaged almost 5 targets a game, 83 receiving yards. He was the running back 13 on a per game basis. But if we look at that small window that we had, and keep in mind, after this year, I was screaming Kenyan Drake was one of the most overrated players in Dynasty after this season. I'm not a big Kenyan Drake fan by any means. Very similar to Devin Singletary. I don't think Kenyan Drake is a fantastic running back. I don't think Kenyan Drake is one of the most talented RBs in the league by any stretch of the imagination. But what I have seen before is I saw Kenyan Drake in 2019 in an 8-game sample have 123 carries. In that same 8-game sample, I have 35 targets. So averaging what? Like 4.5 targets a game? 17 carries a game? Probably closer to 16 carries a game. I apologize doing that off the top of my mind. But we have seen him go out there and have that 3-down workload before in Arizona. And if something were to occur to Josh Jacobs, I believe that he steps into that 3-down workload in Las Vegas. He has the contract attached to it. Should be healthy this upcoming season. We've seen the receiving upside before for Kenyan Drake. And he's going behind Jerick McKinnon in startup drafts right now. I'm taking Kenyan Drake. This is a running back also that's not as old as most people assume. Will be 28 this upcoming season. Now, I think that's all we're going to have for this video. Of course, thank you so much for being a part of the flock, supporting the channel. Go down there, drop that like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already, and go get our Dynasty research book, flockfantasy.com, or go sign up for Underdog Fantasy and use promo code FLOCK. Get that Dynasty research book when you sign up. Get your initial deposit matched dollar for dollar up to $100 and get a month-long trial of our premium locals content. But thank you again. Hope you have a great day and hope we get to see you with the video tomorrow.